Typhoon, and the other one is going in the other direction. One came on the right of us, and one came on the left. We've missed both of them, but we're getting wet, of course. So no typhoon type weather for us today here, just wet, drizzly, and super, super stinky and hot. I know I was up late last night, and I got up late this morning. I missed my shower. This stream is finished at 9:30, and I'm in that shower at 9:31. It's stinky, stinky hot. Good morning, guys. Guys, gang. Guys, gals, whatever. Dark, dark. Okay, sorry. Hey. Okay, what we've got today, it's Monday morning. We're going to be chewing away at this block. I don't think I'll be finished it today because I got to go so slowly and carefully. I get distracted anyway. So we'll chew away at it. Was it 29 and 86% humidity? I don't know. Whatever. It feels like 100. There's no. I tell you, if I had a sheet of washi, or whatever, washi paper. If I just had some washi here, there's enough moisture in the air that this paper is almost, it feels like it's damp enough. I could actually print it, almost. There's enough moisture just everywhere in the air. Paper is out, yes. Day-chan is coming today. She'll be here yesterday, today, tomorrow, and the day after. She's working on the September print. We've a little bit jumped ahead here. The August print, the first two groups are done. The first of those are on their way already to the collectors. Sugi-san's finished her second group. We'll be having Kubota-san do the third group. He will start that on the 15th or so. In the meantime, Day-chan has started work on the September print. She's doing the first batch right now. She did all the test printing. Everybody else checked off on it. And she's good to go. So we're up and running. I know Ishikawa-san's off for a couple of weeks. She and her husband have gone to the countryside or something for a couple of weeks to get away from the hot weather. And Sugi-san is resting at home. She just got her first vaccine yesterday, yesterday. So she's not going to be off for a few days, resting for that. Bit by bit, we are getting shot here. I believe Cameron is the last one of the group who is not yet covered. He's the youngest, of course, and his city, I guess, is just simply slow. How is Typhoon? Nothing for us. They're missing us, as I said. One went on the Pacific side, and one went on the Japan Sea side. I've got a link here if you want to have a peek. So number 10 went to the east of us, and number 9 has gone to the west of us. And we're in the, what do you call it? The rain shadow, I guess. We're going to get peripheral rain from Typhoon number 9. And 10's already gone, and number 9's next. Don't ask. Whatever. Okay, there are a few things to mention when we get started here, but let me get started first and then bring up a few things as we get going on this. Those typhoons, they're numbered in the order that they first, come into being somewhere out in the Pacific. So the one that's there now is number 9, and the one that's there is number 10. 9 must have been the whatever tropical depression or something that formed into a typhoon first. And it then wandered off towards Taiwan or the Philippines or something. Then number 10 followed it, and it wandered a little bit higher up towards Japan. And number 10 then missed us and headed off north, and number 9 has turned around and made a beeline straight for Japan. So even though 9 created first, 10 hit us first. They don't just come in a straight line. They wander all over the place. There's been some bizarre, I can't remember. There was one where we had 3 in a row, and they were all in reverse order. It was like 13, 12, 11 or something. I don't remember. Oh, I remember something I'm supposed to talk to you about. This print, Fujisawa, we have news. We have wonderful, wonderful, wonderful news. I got an email late last night. I haven't actually replied to the person yet. I think it's a lady. I haven't replied to the person yet. Soka, Zoom. Hi. Just a sec, one thing at a time here. There's an update on the original of this print and the mystery of why we have no copies of the Hiroshige original, etc., etc., etc. I sent some links to the mods. And maybe Vivid, KP, or somebody can post these in. The lady who sent me a link last night, she found an old book, an Ehon from it's dated on that page. You can find the page, 1860s or 70s or something. And it's a Hiroshige sketchbook that was made into woodblock prints of a very, very simple type, 1, 2, 3 colors, a key line, a little bit of blue, and a little bit of gray. And in that book is a page for Fujisawa. And actually, whatever, we've talked about it now, so let's just pop it up here. The print I've been showing you, we've got it right here. This is the print from the, it looks like late Meiji or Taisho time. We weren't able to find an original, but now, where am I? Here's the page from that sketchbook turned into woodblock prints. And clearly, absolutely without any shadow of a doubt, our print was based, Dave Clinks, our print was based on it. And look at the sky. Look at the sky. Look at the sky. So whoever, the Taisho period crew who turned the sketch into a print clearly had this book or had access to this book. And they decided, hey, Hiroshige's dead. Copyrights, what's copyright? There were no copyrights at this time. So they grabbed it and made a woodblock print. So thank you very much. I haven't even had a chance. I said I saw the mail first thing when I woke up this morning. I'm running around here. So I haven't had a chance yet to reply to this person. If you're here in the stream, thank you very much. And I will, I'll reply to you when I get to it. And this is the way it worked in an era pre-copyrights. You know, you see something and you just go for it. You grab it. I don't know. Some of us behave in a similar way these days. I don't know. But there's no question that it's exactly the same. The clouds, the rain shape, the angles, the people in the same layout, everything. They've taken this sketch, made a key block out of it, and then popped up some color blocks. So that would be the original. And it's interesting, actually. This is a bit of a clue as to how these things were made. Even the biggest full-color prints would have started life as sketches like this. You can see this guy doing the brush strokes, then throwing a wash over it, taking it to the publisher, saying, what do you think about this? And the publisher says, we can run with this. And all those subsequent jobs you see, coloring the village, putting the blue in, doing this, doing that, that's all work that would have been done by the workshop, not by the designer. So it's a perfect example of how this works. Anyway, the links are there. I think somebody, one of the mods, pop the links into the stream so you can get them anytime you like. So for the moment now, let me get this out of the way and let's do some carving here. What does the text say? I haven't even started to read it yet. It looks like a travelogue, I believe. It'll be information on Fujisawa. This will be a page of scenes of the Tokaido. So almost certainly it's going to tell you what can you see when you get to Fujisawa, what should you see, what kind of stuff you can eat. It will be a very light travelogue. But I'm so cool to see that. That's going to put the next, what's the word? The next key to the puzzle comes into place, you know. So the print we're carving here, Hiroshige, never saw it, never had anything to do with it, this color version. You know. There was a bunch of different new stuff I was supposed to talk about today, but I can't remember. I didn't get a chance to make any notes, so whatever. They'll come to me or they won't as we go along here. No idea. Trouble with the bot here today. No idea. You guys wrestle with it. I don't know. Nothing I can do. I'm sorry. If it's down, it's down. I myself don't have access to the code behind it. I asked Nick, the young guy who has set up this bot for us. He's very, very helpful about this stream. He provided this bot and the printout of the chat for me every day. But I've asked him, look, it's trouble for you. Let me take it over or whatever. But he keeps it to himself, so it's okay. He runs it on his own server, I guess, or a server that he has access to. And even though I've offered to host it and all this kind of stuff, he hangs on to it. So it's okay. It's his baby. So. But the downside is that when something goes wrong with it, there's nothing I can do about it. And so I'm sorry, I can't. All I can do is, if it's down, I have to let him know, and that's all I can do. So. I should tell you what, I'm going to break my rule here today. Give me 1 second. I'll be back in 1 minute. I got to go to the panel at the back of the room here. 1 sec, back in 1 minute. Breaking one of the house rules. Can you hear it? I put the air conditioner on. Maybe I'm getting old, but there's no way. I just can't handle this. It's just way, way, way too hot and muggy here. This is a shop, and of course when the shop is open, of course the air conditioner goes on without question. When there's staff here, 2 or 3, 4 people, when Watanabe-san is here on Wednesday taking pictures, we put the air conditioner on. But my general mood, and I guess I'm just old-fashioned, I don't know, when I'm here by myself, I leave it off, whatever, just to run the air conditioner for the whole shop. It's just, it doesn't seem right to do it when I'm just here by myself. But I'm sorry, today I cannot do this. So break my rule. What was that the limit then? 89% humidity? Is that what broke Dave? I don't know the numbers, but it's really hard to keep track of where you are because this all looks the same now. You go back and forth and back and forth. It all looks the same. Here's the V cut. I don't know if this is, this is obviously not so interesting to watch. I'm sorry, but this is the work that's on the table at the moment. And I'm still not sure what will be happening next week. When this block is done, there will be some test printing to do on it, but I won't be doing that here. This goes out to Mitamura-san again for more printing. And I think he'll return a usable print this time. I know he did a test for us last time, but as you know, we didn't have a sample of the print. So he struggled with trying to get a decent image. But now that we have these samples, the Taisho era print itself from these blocks, and then behind that, the original sketch, now that we have these, we can go ahead and make a real nice print of this. So I'm going to call Mitamura-san back in once I get this block finished, and have him have another go, have him make another go at it. So. Now it looks like 3 rain marks here, but it's not. The middle one is just the in-between, so it's coming out. Here's the cool hitting. I don't know. I know this whole thing about the climate and our energy use and stuff like this, Well, we've talked about these things a long time, many times over the years. The air conditioners, I don't have one in Ome still in my home there. There is a portable air conditioner in the room downstairs where the ladies work in Ome because that was it. If that wasn't there, they would quit. They think it's essential. But I don't know. How much personal responsibility do we take? I don't know. Some of this is uneven. Again, there's a few thin spots, a little bit fatter spots. But because it's so difficult to see them at this stage, I'm going to leave it. Again, once it's been printed, you can clearly see which is fat, which is thin. You come in and shave a bit off. But it's foolish to do it at this point. Oh, I can see that side, look. I wandered off. Let me get that. We can shave here. This is our Oshibori guide, so we've had the camera pointed to the left for, I guess, a few weeks in a row because it's been so sunny. On sunny days, it's difficult for me to put the camera facing east the way it is today because the sun shines directly into the lens. But because it's raining today, I can point the camera that way with no problem. This is grain on the plank. It's not end grain. We never use end grain in the traditional Japanese. Anytime we're working on a block, it's on the plank. We never use end grain. That's for the wood engravers, people making what they call koguchi hanga. Traditional Japanese woodblock printing is always, and I mean 100%, it's always on the flat side. No crows. I don't know. I don't hear any crows. I didn't take any notice of it. When it's really damp, do they not like this? They head out? I don't know. I just cut that one. I had a funny one this morning. I had to laugh about this. I guess it's okay to tell you about it. You can tell jokes against yourself, I guess. I don't know, whatever. During the week, last week, Friday, Aoyama-san and I were here, and we were trying to make some plans for some videos coming up. And we've talked here recently about how we have so much trouble at the moment getting staff. We need some more Japanese staff members. We need somebody to help in the shop here. Watanabe-san take pictures and stuff. Then we need another person packing in Ome because it's too much now for 3 people there. We need one more person in Ome. And then I'd like a general assistant for myself. So we're looking at least for 3 people right now. But we're looking for 3 people, Japanese people, who would live nearby, work nearby, and stuff like this. And we've sort of decided how we've had real trouble finding people like this. So sort of the answer, which we've been playing about with for a while, is we need to make some better social media in Japanese. At the moment, our social media in the West is helping us a great deal. YouTube, Twitch, whatever you name it. But we have basically 0 presence in social media here in Japan. So we have, there's millions of people here in Japan who simply don't know about us. So this question of trying to find staff, if we were looking overseas, it would be easy because we have so many contacts. But here in Japan, we can't do it. Anyway, so long story short, Friday, Aoya-sama and I made sort of a plan. Okay, suppose we do this. We prepare a presentation about what we want to say, introducing Mokuhankan, who we are, what we're trying to do, etc., etc. Show a little bit of the history, show a little bit of the stuff we've made, and then, just introducing Mokuhankan to a Japanese audience. They may have seen Dave on TV a little bit, but they don't know much about us or what's going on. And we should do this, of course, in Japanese. So it means Dave sits in front of the camera. We have to prepare this. So I've got to rehearse this. Dave sits in front of the camera and says to everybody, "Minasan, konnichiwa," whatever, blah, 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 blah. And we do this in Japanese. And I couldn't do it the usual way with the video is 1 cut, 30 minutes. There's no way I could do that. So it would be whatever, cut, 2 or 3 minutes at a time. It's okay. YouTube videos can do that. You say your piece a few sentences at a time or whatever. So we've got the idea. We are now going to try and do this. We're going to start planning for it. We're going to get it going. But for me, the idea to sit in front of the camera and make a YouTube presentation in Japanese, it's a sigh, you know. I can quote, speak, unquote the language. I can get by, but it just doesn't sound good. It sounds awful. I came to this as an adult. I haven't studied it. I've never been to language school, you know, whatever. So my excuse, blah, blah, excuses, or I'm just no good at copying the sounds. I don't know. So anyway, no problem. Things are what they are, though. I actually live here. I've run a business. We can do this. I get by in Japanese. But it won't be any fun for me to try and make this video, because the personality that you are comes out in your language, and Dave's English-speaking personality is what it is. My Japanese language personality is, it's not shut down, but it's more of a mumble and a quiet and I don't want to get in your way kind of a pattern or whatever. You have to speak differently when you speak to different languages. So do a bad Japanese dub. So we really do not. We talked about this. I'll pretend, and then Aoyama-san will do the voiceover later on, and we just do not want to do that. We do not want to do that. So anyway, I've sort of got myself, okay, Dave, we must do this. We must do this. Start making the presentation, and we've started getting this thing together. Aoyama-san's got some ideas. I've got some ideas. It won't be happening today or tomorrow, but we must do this thing. So we do this, we get this organized. Dave gets up this morning. I stayed up way too late last night programming, way too late. I don't even want to talk about it. So I get up this morning, okay, time for a Twitch stream, no problem, let's go. Before I do, let's get my daily dose of pleasure by looking at the YouTube comments. So I flip over to my YouTube comment feed, which shows me, not all, but it shows most recent comments on any and all of the videos that are on our channel. And the first one I read is, I gotta quote it. The guy says, "You've been here 30 years, and man, that's like the worst Japanese I've ever heard." I can't remember what he said. I could look it up if you want. So I'm like, okay, you know, that's okay. I guess that's okay. If I'm gonna take the good comments on the channel, I have to, of course, take the bad. You know, when you're playing a game, you can't just count your own goals. You have to count the goals that the other guy scores against you as well. You know, so no problem. So somebody doesn't like my Japanese, and in truth, I have a horrible, horrible accent in Japanese. I've tried to shake it off, and when I'm on NHK or something, I try and keep the voice going in the back of my mind. Dave, remember your accent. Remember your accent. Remember your accent. But of course I forget. You can't remember that as you're speaking all the time. So this guy, whoever he is, I don't have any idea whoever he is. He just made this comment at exactly the worst time. You know, I'm just trying to get my courage up to make this video, a 1-hour presentation or something. And here he says, you know, whatever. After 30 years, that's the best you can do. You know. So, well. Timing, timing. So far now we've cut about 12 of these things and haven't chipped or popped any of them yet. I don't know. What's that expression when people are the English idiom, the English expression, you know, when you're talking about the future and you're doing well and you say so far so good, and then you say touch wood or something. That's right. I've never used that expression, but I don't know. Has any meaning for us? I don't know. The carving is going fine so far. Touch what? Looking good, looking good. Yeah, I mean, the comments about the language, whatever. So, I mean, you know, my pronunciation is bad, but I communicate. I run a business. We're okay, you know. But just, it's the timing on this guy, you know, saying, you know. And I could see myself, if I were what he did, he put a comment. The comment was on that video, YouTube, that I did in Japanese. It was the one explaining our situation vis-a-vis Ghibli. And I had made my presentation in Japanese, hoping that the Ghibli people, maybe would listen to it or hear it or whatever, something like that. So his comment is on that video. And I get it, because if I myself had been hearing that, I would be thinking exactly the same thing. Jesus, you've been here how long? And that's the best you can do. So I get it. But he didn't have to say so. Whatever. Have you ever tried not worrying about it? Well, that's what I do. I mean, 23.99 hours a day. I don't worry about it. Of course not. I'm just bringing it up now, and I hope I'm laughing when I tell this story. I am not upset by the comment. I'm laughing at it. Of course I don't worry about it. Just get out there and live, of course. Live my life, run the company, hire the staff, So no, this is no existential crisis here, I was just laughing about the timing. We're just trying to get Dave's courage up to make a new Japanese video, and bang, here comes this comment about the last one. Actually, there's a generational thing in play here. This is interesting. I don't know what you know about this. Before I came to Japan, I came in the middle 80s. And before I came to Japan, I bought, all the books I could find explaining Japan and this and that. There were a bunch of books published. And back in the 80s, Japan was sort of it was a powerhouse. Japan was going to rule the world and blah, 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 until the Plaza Accords came along and put an end to all that. But so there was lots of interest in the rest of the world in Japan. And I read a bunch of books about this. And a bunch of the books about Japan had been written by foreigners who had had lots of experience here. And they come in waves. It's been going on, of course, since the Meiji time. But to speak in the post-war period, there was a group of foreigners who came here in the immediate post-war years, like the late 40s and 50s. And there are two types. It was like the GI military type who were posted here, as an occupation force. And those young guys didn't, of course, learn any Japanese whatsoever. They weren't expected to. They didn't so much fraternize. They were an occupying army. And they hung out in their barracks and came out to town to get drunk and whatever. And they didn't try to speak Japanese, nor would anybody have ever expected them to. But then there was a layer on top of that, people who were part of the occupying forces who were trying to help govern the country, trying to help work things out. And these people, of course, even before they came, they intensely studied the Japanese language. They drilled and drilled and studied and studied and studied and studied. And those guys, of course, got really, really good at it, really, really fluent, because they were, that was their job. They were trained to. And on top of that, then you had the businessman types, the guys who came from Coca-Cola to try and manage the Japanese office and stuff like this. And these guys didn't. There we are. We have a tiny chip here. I just popped out one of these lines. Rain, rain, go away. Come and get another. And those guys really didn't have any feeling that they should or could or would learn the language. They were expatriate businessmen, expatriate executives. And they came in to run the place, speaking through interpreters and translators. So the general level of Japanese spoken by most foreigners who were here through that period, 50s and 60s, once the occupation guys had gone, the general level of Japanese was extremely low. They considered it, and you read the old books from the time, they called it the devil's language. And for some reason, it was considered super difficult and impossible to learn. Normal Westerners just could not do this, so the game is not worth the candle, so don't try. Then the next group that comes along is people like me in the 70s and 80s. We come here to either study something or learn something or geek around or whatever. And we're the kind who have not been to college. We didn't study the language, but we just sort of hit the ground running and try and just pick it up as you go along. And this is my type, and during that era, this was really quite common. So you get people like me who can get around in Japanese, but who have never spent 1 minute in a classroom. Whatever kanji they can read and write is from whatever they've picked up as a matter of curiosity through walking around the town and looking at this and looking at that. So there's two ways to look at us. wow, we can get around, we can do this, or oh my God, that's all he can do. Surely if he'd studied, he would have been much better. And both of those things are true. And the difficult part for people like me now, and I'm 70 now, in a couple of months I'll be 70, is the generation behind, the next generation following me. And this is people like Cameron, for example. Before they came here, he did Japanese in university for 3-4 years, maybe, I don't know. He studied it, he put the headphones on, he practiced pronouncing, he did the textbooks and did the homework and all that kind of stuff. And he's very typical. Lots and lots and lots of people like him. Before they hit the ground here, they already can speak way, way better than someone like me from my generation. So when those guys now, the new generation, can I call them whatever? People like Cameron, when they see people like me, they're thinking that, oh Jesus, Dave, pronunciation, whatever. So it's okay, I can do what I can do. I said I popped something out. It was nothing major, just somewhere along that line. I'm not even sure if I can find it now. Somewhere along that line. Anybody notice where it was? I can't find it. We'll see it when we print. Somewhere along the line, there's a little pop. One of the pieces of wood has popped out there. So you can see what we've got. The ones in this group, these are actually carved now both sides. The two lines you see here, both sides are clear. The next group, this is one side only, is cut. So far, this is the group we've cleared. Is Cameron here? Because I have a message for Cameron Sam. Cameron. I haven't talked to him in ages. If you're here, Cameron, I have a simple message. Haven't seen Cameron. Cameron is here. Okay, Cameron, excuse the rest of you for a minute. Cameron Sam, today, the reason I was up late last night, if you go to the manager page, go to the customer, the order entry, and look up Mr. Tester. Look up Mr. Tester. I forget his customer number. 8009. Look up Mr. Tester. Company meeting in progress. Whatever, just simply. Cameron's been off. He's been trying to get some vacation time, but in the middle of work that keeps coming into his box and whatever. Anyway, Cameron, it's easy enough. Look up Mr. Tester and hit the subscriptions tab and poke around. Don't save anything because it doesn't work in the back yet. But now Mr. Tester is the customer. He's a dummy customer. Poke through, click one of the dates. Anyway, I need some feedback on this before I go too much farther. So I got to talk to you later on today if you can. So Mr. Tester is the dummy customer. Anyway, the rest of you are not part of this conversation between me and Cameron, but Cameron has been looking at me for the past few months and saying, he's really polite, he doesn't say this, but Cameron's been thinking, Dave, when is this going to happen? When is this something going to happen? And I'm like, yeah, real soon now. And we've had this for months. And so finally, yesterday, I spent the day on this. So Cameron can see something is actually starting to happen on this project. So. Jed is back at conventions, is he? I didn't know that. Otakon in DC. I gotta have to talk to the guy. I was gonna ask him when he's back on in real life. I didn't know he'd started. So, God. Oh, of course, too. The other news. Speaking about Jed reminds me, the rickshaw cart, the model that came. I've got it here. We'll show it. I guess come show and tell time. We'll bring it up. But that model, I had been so semi-disappointed when we opened it up the other day. I was just expecting to lift it out of the box and show it to you, and I realized that it was some assembly required. I hadn't really thought that far in advance. And I had been a bit, as soon as I realized that, I sort of quickly put it away because I didn't want to sit here fumbling around trying to make a model or something on a live Twitch stream. But as soon as the stream closed the other day, I looked at the thing, took the pieces out of the package, and I realized it's not an actual kit model. Simply they have taken it apart. It comes in a few pieces for a couple of reasons, so that they can make the plastic pieces, fairly easily instead of trying to make the whole thing in one piece, and so they can ship it safely. If it was all assembled, it would be more difficult to ship. So I realized that it wasn't an actual kit. It was just simply you open the parts, click, 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 and away you go. So I thought, okay, well, we'll do this instead of waiting for the next stream and try and do a dramatic Dave is going to assemble a model or something. I'll just put it together and we'll show them on the next stream. So sitting at the bench here, just after the stream closed, I just sat here. Thought, okay, let's put this together. I broke it. And I have to say, X% of it is maybe my fault, and X% of it is, it's a freaking piece of junk. They had some decisions to make to try and how to mold the plastic parts so that you could put it together. But somebody must have found, let's see, we make this piece, put them together. Oops, the third piece doesn't go in because this is in the way. So they took the third piece and made it in two pieces. So the third piece goes in from the top, in from the bottom, you plug them together. And bits of plastic, we're used to something like Lego. It goes two pieces, ka-chunk. And Lego stays together, and you can drive a truck over it, it doesn't come apart. You make too many pieces of Lego all together, you can take them apart. But any given two pieces go A and B and ka-chunk. This isn't like that. These two pieces, there's A and B, there's a tab and there's a hole, and you put it together, and then you let go of one of them and it falls on the floor. Okay, needs glue. Whatever, I'll show it to you later, whatever. It's impressively heavy. Once you've made it, they've put some steel ingots in the base or something, so it sits on the table, boom. But the rest of it is, so I broke it in two places, just simply, and I got a light touch, I work with little delicate pieces of wood, I work with soft, delicate paper, my knives. I am not some ham-fisted, and I broke it in two places. We'll show it to you later, whatever. But so this is not the QBC shopping channel, absolutely. Get out there and buy one of those things. So. But having said that, the other thing that I said about it was still true. I will treasure this, actually. I'm going to treasure this thing. So. But I am very glad I didn't try to assemble it online, I felt like Calvin. Did you follow the old Calvin and Hobbes cartoons? There was this thread. He tries to assemble a little plastic model, and he's doing this, and click, he breaks a piece. He's doing this, he clicks and breaks another piece. So he just gets a hammer out, destroys it. And I remember that Calvin and Hobbes cartoon. You know, Dave, settle down. Some assembly required. World-level craftsmen do not apply, you know. I should have done it on YouTube or something, I guess, whatever, I don't know. My mother would have laughed so hard if I'd done it on stream, if she'd been there, you know. Dave tries to assemble a model, breaks these pieces, and my mother's going to think, been there, done that. Did I download the instructions? No, I didn't. I don't have a phone. So it might have been Kintsugi. That's the idea. So it looks okay. When I say I broke it, simply, you know, pieces separated. I don't have any modeling glue here. Modeling, what's it called? The tube glue you use for plastics. So I don't have any of that here. So no, it's I hope I didn't call it a piece of crap. It's not a piece of crap. I'm disappointed at the build quality. The design, I think, is a fantastic, of course. And as I said, the print itself changed my life. But better read this at lunch. Okay, we'll read it at lunch if I dare. But you did so. Okay, whatever. No, nothing to do with Jed. Jed too himself, he said this wasn't his idea. This company contacted him, I guess, and gave him the pitch. You know, let's do this. Can we use some of your characters to make figures with? And I know nothing about the details in the background. They either they made him an offer he couldn't refuse, I guess, and they went with it. He said though, he did mention, I chatted with him about this, so a year ago or whatever, when it was in preparation, and he did say it took a huge amount of back and forth and back and forth. I guess their team looked at his flat 2D print and tried to take it into 3D, and there was a lot of things that he felt that didn't look right. So it went back and forth for a long time. And my own experience with Jed, when this happens, when there's too many times going back and forth, Jed mentally books off. He's a super skilled guy at creating these things. He puts the idea down and oh my God, there it is. But he's not so good at fixing and touching up and fixing and touching up. And that's not his job. His job is the creation. There's people like me in the background. We file and fiddle and make stuff. Jed's job is to do the conception, the creation. There's a bit of overlap at the beginning and a bit of back and forth until you finalize some details, and then he gets out of the way and we do the making. And the way he described this model project is that there was just simply too much back and forth. I guess they didn't get what he wanted, or they weren't able to make what he wanted, or something like this. I don't know the gory details. And then knowing his character and knowing his personality, I'm sure it got to a point where, Mark 13 came along and he just sort of must have said, okay, just whatever, go and do what you want. I don't know. But the way it is, so it's okay. So the creation is fine. It's wonderful. It really catches Jed's print in 3D. I'm astonished that they could actually do that. And what I'm now complaining about is not the conception, it's the build quality. I guess that's what you get for, $200 or whatever it is. I don't know. But I will treasure it. Absolutely. We're going to build a shelf or something here in Mokuhankan, because this is part of our story. That rickshaw cart print is a hugely important part of the Mokuhankan story. And Conter says his went together just fine, no instructions. Okay, no problem. So you got the same thing. Then Conter, how did you get the boy who's pulling the cart? His leg is separate. I first put it in, and the boy wouldn't go in the rickshaw handle. And in trying to squeeze him around the rickshaw handle, the handle popped off the cart. So when I say it broke, that's where mine broke. Contar here says he has different ways. Maybe the instructions say, be careful, do it from the bottom, don't do it from the top. Maybe, something like that. So it's quite possible I'm guilty here. I put it together without reading the instructions, and I popped off the handle of the cart. Whatever, when we get to show and tell time, I'll show it to you and we can see, I'll explain what I did. So don't sue me, whatever, but I'm just telling you the story as it happened. So another point, this dust magnet, if you don't get a display case. So I guess here in Japan, of course, figures are a real big thing. There are people in Japan with thousands, hundreds and thousands of figures. If you go on Yahoo Auction, for example, you'll see figures, display cases. People. It's a deal. It's a real big deal here. Clearly. I don't remember when I was a kid. We'd made models, and then I guess we would make the model. If it was an airplane, we'd hang it on a string from the ceiling, and then at some point later, it would just kind of disappear. I guess my mom must have just cleaned up now and then, and the models just disappeared. And the kid, probably me and my brother, we wouldn't even really notice whatever. There's a bunch of airplanes hanging from the ceiling, and one day that one's gone or something. My mom has cleaned it up, and we wouldn't really even notice, I guess. The other thing too is we moved houses when we were kids in that era. From when I was 6, pretty much to the time I either was 15 or 16 and left home. We moved every 2 years. Without exception, every 2 years we moved. So it required a cleanup and a toss out and getting everything going. So when you're in that kind of environment, you don't carry a bunch of models and stuff that you made and things like this. They don't stay with you. So every 2 years, I don't remember the details, but there must have been, my mother would come into the bedroom with a box. Okay, that's guys, here, pick the stuff you want to take with you to the next house, and the rest is going to be, is going to be tossed, I guess, something like that. I don't know how she did it, but... How's our time? 9 o'clock already. Ooh. Let's keep it up. I'm getting like one line every 5 minutes or something? So today's plan after we're finished here, as I said, I'm going to grab upstairs, get a shower quick as I can. And then for me, the rest of the day, I think it's going to be shipping. It's going to be a FedEx day tomorrow. So today, for me, it's I have to figure out the packing for the FedEx box, get as much stuff in there as I can. Today's a national holiday in Japan for something. I forget what it's called. I don't remember. But the post office is closed today, so. The holidays in Japan just move around too much. They're always rejiggling them and changing them, and I never, ever, ever can remember what's coming up. The traditional, we're in what's called the Obon season. So before they had things like national holidays, this was summer Obon season where people would take a couple of days off, go back to their ancestral village and clean the graves and this kind of stuff. You see it in other Asian cultures too, at different times of year. In Japan, it's something that happens usually in August. And I guess it's scaled down this time because of the pandemic or something, whatever, I don't know. Back in the old days when I lived here with a family, with my kids and their mother, we spent August back in her home village. We left Tokyo at the end of July. We closed our English school for the full month of August. And come the end of July, we left Tokyo. We headed down to her family farm. It was a farm in the old days. By the time we came along, there was no animals there. And we spent August down on the family farm, and a mix of playing in the river and keeping the kids away from the snakes and the rain, the endless, and I mean endless rain. Her hometown was in a place called Kihocho. It's at the southern end of the Ki Peninsula. It's actually the most southernmost part geographically of the main island of Honshu. And the way it faces the Pacific, it has actually quite a mild, clement climate in winter. And then when you see a map of Japan with the rainfall marked on it, the Ki Peninsula is marked in like black or red or whatever the map uses to signify areas of high rainfall. And it is the Honshu Islands area of max rainfall during the summer. And we would go literally weeks without seeing the sun, just day after day after day of monsoon. Couldn't dry the clothes, the kids are going crazy. And it's 85% and it's whatever. And we had the chance, this is like 30x years ago, we had the chance, after her parents passed away, we could have, if we had wanted to, we could have thought about taking over the family property, and we could have built ourselves a house in the country and stuff like that, and I could have made prints and whatever. But luckily, common sense, we had a huge attack of common sense and decided it wasn't for us, and it wouldn't have been possible. The property they owned was more than an hour from the nearest road. No electricity, no gas, no nothing. And the worst rain in the island of Tohoku, the island of Honshu. It's not near Osaka, it's south from Osaka. If you flew from Osaka, you go south. So it's between, the train that goes from Osaka down around the Ki Peninsula back up to Nagoya. It's that loop through Wakayama Prefecture and Mie Prefecture. And her family house was in Kihocho, which is in Mie, but the nearest town, the bus ran into Shingu City, which was in Wakayama Prefecture. And it's a famous area now. Lots of foreigners go down there. It's the Kumano Nada, the old walking trail. And the trail that goes from the Kumano up to the old capital in Nara, the trail goes by not too far from their farm. But my God, what a gloomy place it all is. It's deep forest, and if it's a nice day and you're hiking through and you're going to be out of it soon, it's okay. But when you're living there and it's day after day after day of 99% humidity and It really isn't a pleasant place at all, and which is why it's not populated, of course, But the history's there. We took the old bus. There was a bonnet bus that used to run from Kumano City, Kumano-shi, up to Nara. And it headed straight up into the mountains from Kumano. This is, like what used to be the old Kumano Hodo, the walking route. And a bonnet bus went up there, and there was 2 drivers. A bonnet bus with like 3 or 4 or 5 passengers in it, mostly farmers on the way to villages up there, and 2 drivers. And that's because the road couldn't go straight through. The road had switchbacks where the bus couldn't drive up. The bus had to go up, back up, like this to go through. And every time it backed up, of course, the other guy has to get out with a flag. It's the middle of the mountains. There's nobody within a million miles. But the bus is backing up, so the guy behind with a flag and a whistle, and nobody but the bears. Whatever. Maybe that's why it was there, so he didn't bump into bears, What an eye-opener it was. Does that bus still run? I can't imagine it still runs. This is 35 years ago I'm talking about now. A bus from Kumano-shi to the capital at Nara. It ended up at Yoshino, the place famous for cherry blossoms near Nara. So the bus was from Kumano to Yoshino. How old was I when I moved to Japan? Well, it's been answered. I was exactly 35, and I am now, next month, 2 months, I'm going to be 70. So it's really half of my life. Previous half of my life was Britain and Canada, and then the last half of my life is here. It's Japan. Show and tell time. Soka, soka, soka. Okay. No, the deal about the hour, I know it was an hour's hike. The farm that they have was an hour's hike up a long valley from the bus stop. So to leave the farm, it's about 1 hour coming down, 50 minutes or so coming down the mountain trail, and you come out at the bus stop. And the bus stop is not a town, it's a little village there. And all there was a little post office, a dozen houses, and there was a garage from the agricultural co-op where like the farmers could get a fan belt for their little tractor and stuff like that. And then from there you got on a bus and you went to Shingu City, and that took about 40 minutes. So Shingu City is where the shopping was, the supermarket, stuff like, you need a light bulb, go buy a light bulb from the supermarket in Shingu. So for me to get to the supermarket was an hour, 50 minutes or so down the trail, wait for the bus, we knew the schedule, then a 40-minute bus, and there we are. So it was impossible. We were sort of young and sort of semi-drunk and whatever, and we thought we could make a wonderful life there, get a generator from Canada, because there's lots of water power. There was a good stream there. But we had a good, strong attack of sanity and decided not to do this. And it was incredible. And what it used to be, in the old days, from that bus stop, going up the valley used to be a flourishing village, not a village, but farms. One farm, next farm, next farm, next farm, next farm. And their farm was the last one at the end. It was called Okunono, the farthest farm. But in the intervening years, everybody else had got attack of common sense and had gone to the city. But their farm, the very last one, was the last one left. It was really interesting. I should maybe, whatever, somebody's going to map a Quijote. The farm is visible, the cleared space in the forest and the old fallen farmhouse. It's visible on Google, whatever you call it, Google Map, Google, whatever. In a different world, it would have been something for us to do, but it was just, I'm not a pioneer. I'm not a pioneer. It's forest now. Even when we were there, the inoshishi, the wild boars, were taking over like crazy. And the last couple of years, we helped them in those summers. What we did was we strung electric wire around the farm, dug little moats, and put sticks up to try and impale the inoshishi. We tried to defend this thing, and it was a complete, absolute, total failure. It was just whatever. The mountain took over. Okay, here we go. Here is our, when I say I broke it, what I mean is this. The handle, look, this was attached. I don't want to muck with it too much because I'm going to break it again. The boy's leg needed to go in separately. And once you put the boy's leg in order to get the guy hooked onto this, you had to put his head down and try and turn him upside down. And to get him to spin around this handle, I put too much pressure on, and it popped off this. Now Kantar, he's got one of these, so I guess he managed to get the boy in place without breaking this. And when I said the rest of it, it goes together, but none of it goes together ka-chunk. It just sits there. The guy here on top, there's a hole, he's got a peg and a hole, but it doesn't go ka-chunk. It just sits there. If I turn this thing upside down, it'll all fall in pieces on the floor. But anyway, there we have it. There we have it. As I said, for me, this is a memory of something that changed my life dramatically. It comes in two pieces. There's another one over here on the right-hand side, which is Bowser, Koopa, whatever country you're in, to click together, and it becomes a full bridge with the two of them in competition back and forth, just like Jed's print. And it's got some weight. John's waiting for me to break the other side. I don't want to fool around with this. So I'm sorry if I bad-mouthed it too much, whatever. Maybe this is the normal build quality for something like this. I don't know. Just I was a tad disappointed that it didn't go together a little bit more fluently. But I guess that's it. You just put it together and let it sit there. And I think it's really cool. The idea to take Jed's print into a three-dimensional form. I would never, ever have thought of something like this, Nothing. Yeah, the parts are already painted. Bingo. I guess it's on a cast resin or it's 3D printed or something. I have no idea. No idea. And there's two extra parts. He's holding onto the flower, but there's two parts in the box. You can change it, one with a mushroom and one with a banana. I guess these are parts to the game. So yes, depending on your point of view, this is a really nice model, or this is whatever, something that's not so well made. But there it is. It's going to go on the shelf here. We'll get a cover for it. It's going to go on the shelf, and it will remind us forever and ever of one of the most life-changing experiences I ever had. And Jed arranged for this to be sent. I guess they told him he could have a few copies for gifting, and he put me on that list. So, of course I wrote to Jed about this, but if Jed's listening or seeing this, Thank you very much for including me on the comp list for that. Very much appreciated. Okay, we have a very small, excuse me, not such a dramatic show and tell today. Interesting stuff. Part of the pictures, part of the overall view of what Japanese woodblock printmaking is. We're going to look at 2 or 3 prints today. We've got a few minutes left for this. We've been flipping through our, just one of the random books upstairs. There are dozens and dozens of books like this, so we have no shortage of running out of things to look at. We've been flipping through this bit by bit by bit. And we looked at those fans. Okay, today we have 3 prints to look at today. The first one is a bit strange. It's in exactly 100 years ago. Now, in fact, almost exactly 100 years ago, there was a boom in the idea of making Japanese woodblock prints over in England and France to the main degree, a little bit Germany, mostly England, a little bit also in France. I know the group of people there, Fletcher, he studied it, he wrote a book about it. I've forgotten all their names. My God, I'm forgetting everything. There was a group of English printmakers, Mabel Royds, Fletcher, who were making woodblock prints with the Japanese technology. They weren't making so much Japanese pictures, geisha and whatever, but they were making woodblock prints with the Japanese technology. A young Japanese printer had gone over there in, I think it was 1905, to one of the big world exhibitions that was happening, and he stayed. His name was Urushibara, and he stayed from 1905 or so up until the war, when he was sent back to Japan during the war. And during that time, in the teens, 19 teens or so, he trained and spread some information around to a whole bunch of people. And one of the main art magazines of the day, there was a magazine called The Studio. And it was not just about Japanese printmaking, it was about the arts and whatever. It was pottery and painting and all that kind of stuff. And they published a whole bunch of stories about this. I think Fletcher wrote for them, and a couple of other guys wrote for them. And the Studio, as some of their magazine publications, as inserts, they put in some actual, real Japanese woodblock prints. Not made by the men in Britain, but made for them over here in Japan by, I believe, the Watanabe Company. And what we have here is, this isn't a page ripped out of a book. They used to put... what are they called? Appendix or this month's magazine has a free print stuffed inside it or something like this. I don't know the details. And this is one of the prints from one of the issues of the Studio magazine. And as you can see, they've labeled it. It's a reproduction by the Watanabe Company of a design by Hokusai. And they have edited it and changed it. In Hokusai's day, it wouldn't have been a postcard size. It would have been a surimono size. An insert. Okay, thank you. So this is Watanabe's reproduction of Hokusai design that was given to the British subscribers of the Studio magazine. I'm moving it around. I'm trying to find the angle for reflection. Here we are. There are aluminum metallic pigments used here. And this would have been Hokusai from when he was younger, probably from the time when he was called a Sori. I think what we're seeing here is just part of a cleanup time. The girls are formal dressed. They're ladies from the Yoshiwara, clearly. And the events seem to be like a January cleanup, rolling up some stuff, getting cleaned up, looking for the dolls. But yet they're actually dressed, for work. So it's a pastiche. The gray block is weak, and that's exactly how this would have been printed in Hokusai's time. We have, in another one of these books, we'll get to it one day or another, we'll get to some original Hokusai surimono from this era, and this is exactly how they were printed. The black was never printed jet black for prints like this. This is exactly how it was done. Do I have any idea how many were made? I'm sorry, I don't have a clue. It's probably known. What was the circulation of the studio magazine at that time? I'm sure this is something that researchers know. I don't know anything about it. I have the magazines. Whenever I saw them, when the internet first came up, I jumped on eBay, and there was lots of these things on eBay back in the early days. So I have over in the Ome library, I have a bunch of the studio magazines from that day. Maybe we've got the same one already stuck inside a magazine. Okay, the next two, we have time for this next pair. These are totally, absolutely different. These are made here in Japan, nothing to do with Westerners. And there's a few things that are interesting about these. They are woodblock prints, yes. They're carved on wood and they are printed, but they are what is called kikai mokuhankan, mechanical woodblock prints. So these were carved by hand in the same way that the blocks you see me making all the time are carved by hand, but they were printed in vast quantities by machine, or they're not printed by machine in terms of putting a stack of paper and then standing back and ka-chung, 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 ka-chung. They're printed. I'll just describe how it's done. Imagine the woodblock, for example, the two gradations here, the red and the blue gradation. It's a single woodblock with part carved out to leave the space of blue. And the key here that tells you how and why they are kikai hanga is the brush strokes. Look at the color. And you can see brush strokes running perfectly horizontally. And this was never, ever, ever done in the old days when they were printing by hand. When we are printing, if we've got a wood block in front of us, we put the pigment on, we swirl it around. If we make our final brush strokes horizontally, it pulls pigment out of the pores of the wood, and you can see white streaks. You can see the wood. If we make our final brush strokes, this after swirling around, we make our final brush strokes against the wood, the grain like this, then the pigment is not pulled from the pores. But this stuff, this is kikai hanga, and here's what happened. That block was carved, you had a piece of wood, whatever it was, after it's carved, it's in front of them. They had a long, wide brush. Imagine a brush like this that was longer, and they had a stamp pad, a thing with ink off on one side, and tap, 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 and then there's a bar. They pull the bar back and forth, 2 or 3 times. Now, a guy is doing this. This is not mechanized. It's a block with a swing arm, and the arm and the brush tap into the pigment, and then the guy pulled the arm across back and forth maybe once or twice, I have no idea, 3 times. He puts it down. Next step is the paper comes out into the registration marks as normal, and then he pulls down a plate and gum, ka-gum, up, and away you go. And the result is a print like this. And you can see those telltale horizontal brush strokes, and another telltale in almost all of the prints of this type is the registration gets borked because the guy is not sitting there. Here we are. We see this. Your telltale registration is off, because without the guy carefully rubbing the back of the paper, he can never get the thing all lined up perfectly. And it wasn't the goal. These were advertisements. This is advertisements for sake. They would have either been stuffed inside newspapers, or they would have been put in as inserts. I've learned a new word, inserts in magazines or whatever. And these are advertisements for Japanese sake. Jiman something I don't read, whatever. And the era here, we were talking about 1910, 1915, 1920, something like that. So is it woodblock printmaking? Yes. Is it the kind of delicate woodblock printmaking that we know of? No, not at all. This is mass production. It's the last gasp of doing it on wood before color offset printing came in and blew all this stuff right out the door. There's always thin paper. There's no way. You can't do it with thick paper. With thick paper, you'd need to be rubbing your barren. With the thin paper, that platen could provide enough pressure to do this. And I haven't seen a picture of this. I've just had this described to me by old guys who were still alive when this was done. And so the gestures I'm giving to you now are like the gestures that this printer did for me. He says the bar goes side by side, blam, blam, blam. Paper comes in, and then he reached up and sort of pulled this imaginary plate and down. But I don't know if it's just simply ka-chung, or if there's a plate and it comes down, then you pull a bar across it like a silk screen or something to try and apply some pressure on the back. I don't know. And I have yet to see a picture or an image or a drawing or anything of these machines in actual use. One day, I'll get a chance to see such a thing. But at the moment, all I can do is give you the general idea. It wasn't just for advertisements. We have a set of Tokaido prints upstairs. Not the Tokaido that we know and love for Hiroshige, but Hiroshige the Third or something. Somebody pretending to use the name, cutting some rough designs, and there's 50, 55 of them, whatever, and they're all done like this. And you can see every color has this horizontal brush swiping back and forth across the thing. And here in Japanese, it's Kikai Mokuhankan, mechanical woodblock printing. They're dirt cheap. They're in the shops in Jimbocho all the time. This would be, I don't know, $2, $3, $5, 500 yen maybe, I don't know. And they come up on Yahoo auction all the time. There were bajillions of prints made with this technique in just about that window of time. As I said, almost exactly 100 years ago. The teens, 19-teens, coming into the 1920s, before offset printing. Printed moist. I would guess they're printed moist. I don't think the paper would pick up the pigment very well if it had been dry. I don't know. I'll stand by, willing to be corrected on that. I don't know. My basic guess, seeing how much of the color has come through to the back, I'm thinking that would have had to be moistened, but I don't know. I have to be careful how much I put down as actual facts here. This stuff is actually fairly well documented in Japanese, not in the ukiyo-e side, but in people who've done research on the history of the printing technologies. Like, for example, if you went to, what's it called? Nippon Insatsu, Nippon Printing, the 27-story. They have a little museum at the bottom of it. And almost certainly in that museum, they will have some demonstration or some examples of these machines. So the technology is no, this is not a big old secret, but just I myself, for me, it's a peripheral interest. It's the last gasp of woodblock printmaking before offset printing. Totally and absolutely killed it. Okay, that's enough for now. Next time we have some more prints coming up. There's a real mix of stuff, a real mixed bag coming up. That's what this book is all about. Okay, let's sign off. It's Monday. I'll be back 3 days from now. I'll be back here Thursday, and I'm not sure at all what I'll be doing, because by Thursday I really should be finished that. By Thursday I should be finished that rain print. So I don't know what I'll be doing. We'll think of something. There you go. Okay, guys. Thanks very much. I'm out of here now for 3 days if we don't float away. I'll be back here Thursday morning for me, Wednesday night for most of you. Let's put the outside up. We've got a gap. It's going to rain lots more. It's going to rain till about 2 or 3 o'clock, and then it'll fade away. And I think the forecast for tomorrow is bright, hot sunshine. There we go. Okay, guys. Bye for now. See you next time.